All right, guys, so we're going to be doing some word problems that do involve two steps. I'm very sorry. I know some of you guys are not big fans of those two steps. And then they are going to also involve our fractions. So we are actually going to be drawing some models to be able to show this so we know exactly what we're looking for. So it says, George weeded a fifth of the garden and Summer weeded some too. When they were finished, 2/3 of the garden still needed to be weeded. What fraction of the garden did Summer weed? Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to draw this diagram. So here's the garden, okay? So here is what George, so I'm gonna put G for George, he weeded 1/5, okay? And this is what I have left to weed is 2/3. And then this is what Summer weeded for S, and I'm going to put a big question mark. So what we need to do, first of all, is we need to figure out how much did George weed with how much was left, and then we'll be able to subtract it to figure out how much Summer has left. So first, let's go ahead and add this 1/5 plus 2/3. And instead of drawing a model, what we can do is we can think about, well, 5 and 3, what would be that common denominator? And that common denominator is going to be 15. So I'm going to multiply that first fraction by 3, and I'm going to multiply the second fraction by 5. So now I have 3/15, and I can add 10/15 to it, okay? And so when I do this, I have 3/15 plus 10/15 is going to equal 13/15. Okay, so that is how much I have right here. So to be able to figure out how much Summer has, some of you guys might be able to say, well, I already can figure out the answer by looking at the fraction. Or what you want to do is you want to think, well, the garden is a whole, and they have weeded 13/15. Okay, now I can turn that whole into a fraction, and whenever you take it from a fraction or borrow it, all you do is you turn it into what the denominator is, and it's the numerator and the denominator. So I can say 15/15 minus 13/15, because guys, right here, that 15/15 and 1 is exactly the same. So I don't have to change my denominators. That's the fun thing about turning this whole number into a fraction, is you just turn it into whatever that denominator is. If it was 100, it could be 100 hundredths. If it was 20, it would be 20 twentieths. You can turn it into whatever you want. So now I can subtract it. 15 minus 13 is 2. 15ths is what Summer weeded. Okay. So the next one is I have Jing spent 1/3 of her money on a pack of pens, 1/2 of her money on a pack of markers, and 1/8 of her money on a pack of pencils. What fraction of her money is left? So here is what she spent. Okay, so she spent 1/3, and I'm going to put, let's see here, pens, so I'm just going to put P-E-N-S. And then she spent 1/2 on markers. I'm just going to put M. And she spent 1/8 on pencils, P-E-N-C-I-L-S. And then I just want to know how much she has left over. Now, if you notice, I didn't necessarily make that to scale, and that is completely fine. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to add this 1/3 plus 1/2 plus 1/8. And I'll be able to solve that. And then what I can do is, remember, this is going to be one whole, so I'll take that answer and do 1 minus, and then whatever my fraction is. And remember, I can just choose my denominator by what I have. So this one's, because there are 3 here, I have to think 3, 2, and 8. I've really got to think about what would be a common denominator. So I'm going to start with 8, and I have 8, 16, 24, 32. I'm going to stop there because I'm hoping that somewhere with that 2 and the 3, I know that 2 is going to be all of those numbers. It's an even number, but it's that 3 which is where I need to figure this out. So if I've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. So almost it looks like that 24 is going to be my common denominator. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, okay? So right now up here, I've got to figure out, well, what am I going to do to 3 to get to 24? Well, I multiply it by 8. What do I do to 2 to get to 24? I multiply it by 12. And what do I do to 1/8 to get to 24? I multiply it by 3. Okay, so now I have 8 24ths plus 12 24ths plus 3 24ths. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 8 plus 12 plus 3. So 8 plus 12 is 20 plus 3 is 23. And some of you guys already might be able to kind of figure this out by just looking at that number, how much money she would have left. But right now I want to subtract 1 minus 23 24ths. I'm going to turn that 1 into a fraction, and because 24 is my denominator, I'm going to turn it into 24 24ths, and I'm going to subtract 23 24ths, common denominator. 24 minus 23 is 1. 24ths is what she has left. Okay, so it is pretty simple, but remember, here's our 2 steps. One step and then our second step.